The Evermore podcast is now sponsored by WFST Total Compliance. WFST provides fire safety requirements UK-wide to prepare you and your employees should the worst happen. Do what you do best and visit wfst.co.uk today. Enjoy the episode. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. It's 10 o'clock. Me and Mark are back asking what we ask every Monday night, except for I'm in a hotel and Mark has a dodgy computer. My God, that sounds wrong. What's going on, Mark? How you doing?
Please don't say things like that. I'll have police at my door.
We'll have them bots in the comments before you know it, mate. They'll be back again. The dodgy bots.
That's a good way to start the show.
It is. It's much better than Alex Turner started the show at Glastonbury, mate. I was going to do an impression tonight, but I thought I'd give it a miss. He's had enough background. He doesn't need me jumping in there as well, mate. But it's been a... Go on, mate, go on.
I was going to say, so long as you're not playing the keyboard, we're all right.
No. I'm not doing my Ross sound tonight, mate. Don't worry about that. There'll be none of that going on. But we are live tonight. We've got some comments flying in already. But just before we do, as we always say at the start of the show, if you're new to the channel, click subscribe. Come and join us. We're so close to the magic 4K number. We're only something like 30. If you're brand new, smash that subscribe. We want to be on 4K before the season starts. We're so close. I know we're going to get there. But just hit that button, guys, and come and join us. And we are live tonight. Big shout out to Kev, who's already been in the comments early doors. Good to see you, Kev. We have got Steve and Missy there. Good evening to you too. Les, evening all. Glad you're awake for this one. I saw you on the Gallagher Shots from before, Les. You moonlighter. You're getting some serious NUFC content tonight, mate. We've got Kenk is in the house as well. Good to see you. Am I on holiday, Kev? Well, not really, mate, unless London is a holiday. Not really for me. I'm away on graft, unfortunately, mate. But it's not stopping me doing what's going on, that's for sure. Richie's in the comments. I'm sure he's going to be happy with the James Maddison update in a minute. We've got William as well saying, no tell motel. Every one of them dodgy ones, mate, yeah. If you hear something banging, it won't be me. I'll tell you that right now. And JB is in the house as well. All right to you too, mate. Right, let's get stuck in then, Mark. So we've had a bit of NUFC content going on this week, especially in the under 21. So a couple of our lads are there. I suppose we can officially say he's our lad because the deal looks pretty much done. So we're talking about Anthony Gordon, who is our player. He's already got a goal and an assist. And the wonderful Italian stallion, Sandro Tonali, has got 2 assists, mate. And he looks quite handy, Mark, isn't he?
It does. Tonali, please. You're giving him an extra O.
Toonali. He's Toonali, mate. That's what he's now christened as. Toonali. That is his name, mate. Don't ruin it.
No, look, he's looked exceptional. Great from set pieces. He's barely missed one. You know, the ball he put in the opener against France was exceptional from the free kick. Great ball. The corner he put in yesterday. Was it yesterday? I've lost track. It was yesterday. We already knew he's good on the deck. He's good with the ball at his feet. He's good from set pieces. It gives more. We've talked about this with Trippier, giving more options to take some of the burden off trips. So that's really promising to see from a Newcastle point of view.
It is definitely, and obviously giving Anthony Gordon a shout out as well. I mean, you already mentioned about how when he came to Newcastle from Everton, he was seriously devoid of match fitness, and he didn't realise how sharp Eddie Howe had the lads playing in terms of the intensity and everything else. And I think he even said he wanted to use him to 21s as a way to get his fitness up, and he's looked really good so far. He got a great assist, didn't he, for Ramsey, I think, scored a goal, and then he scored a cracking little header, just ghosting into the box and just nodding it in the back of the net, didn't it, mate? So it's nice to see Gordon playing well as well.
Yeah, and he's playing in that sort of further forward, this more central role, isn't he? So he's doing a lot through the middle. It gives another option then for perhaps Newcastle to look at. Can they play him as almost as a backup striker as well? It gives them more options to be able, if there are injuries around, to be able to then look at him to play in that position as well.
Absolutely. Got Kevin in the comments there saying who would be the leader for set pieces, Trippier versus Tonali. Sorry, Mark, Tonali, not Tonali. I mean, to be fair, I think Trips would probably pull rank on it, I think, most of the time. But, you know, as you say, Mark, it would be good for him to have a break from it, because I think sometimes even the opposition can scout what Trippier is trying to do, I think, as well, and try to figure out a plan against him. If you've got two players you can kind of move around in between, set pieces. It keeps him guessing, doesn't it? Because Tonali will put a different ball in the Trippier will do, I'm sure. But it'll be a total different technique.
Yeah, absolutely. You want that bit of variation, left foot and right foot, if you can get somebody to do left-footed corners, left-footed free kicks too. But just a variation in the way that they approach the ball. And, they're both really, really effective. But you're right, it just keeps teams guessing because they can scout all they want. They can look at all the footage of Trippier all they want. And then all of a sudden, the Italian rocks up and puts one in completely differently to what they're expecting. So, yeah, it's weapons in your arsenal, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. Kev's got a good point there. He thinks that goal against Chelsea really gave Gordon the boost that he needed. And it's an interesting one there from JB, saying that it would save his money if Gordon looked like a kind of a competent backup striker. But as you say, Mark, he's got that flexibility to play, and he's still a young player. So, you could quite easily move Gordon into a different position. I'm not saying make him a striker, but if that option's there, if because there's talk about, there's loads of players being linked. We're going to talk about transfers in a minute, but I think there was a young striker from, what do I want to say? Was it the Belgian league? Sevilla, sorry.
There's a lad from Sevilla, I think Sevilla, who's been linked to sort of date, whose name completely escapes us right off the top of my head. So and there's been a few more, but he's the sort of latest one. But again, you're talking about a kid there who's, I think, about 20 years old, scored 18 goals this season. You're looking at serious money for, because I think Sevilla were looking at it as if, well, look at how much you paid for Alexander Isak, and if it's the same sort of caliber of player, perhaps they're going to want a similar sort of money. So if you're not going to spend that money now, then quite easily play Gordon in that position if he's needed. And hopefully, from your guys' point of view, you've got Isak playing there, you've got Wilson almost to change or backup in that regard, and then Gordon as a third option.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout, mate. To be fair, I think they will try and look for a centre forward and bring in a young centre forward that can, learn off Isak and Wilson. But I think if they can't get it, it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to suggest, really. If we can't do it, it is to use the squad within. Absolutely. Got some comments flying in there. We're going to get to that in a minute, Ian. Don't worry about it. I can see your comment coming in there. Kendo's come and join us. How you doing, Kendo? Good to see you. We've got T-Dog saying, when's the season starting? Summers with no World Cup or Euros are awful. Absolutely. Can't start soon enough, mate. August is when it starts. But July pre-season, I think we've got a couple of pre-season friendlies, mate. We'll get stuck into them as well. But we might as well move on to the transfer talk here, because Ian is dying to talk about this breaking news that we're going to get stuck into. I'm going to pull up your comment, Ian, just because you mentioned it in there. Livramento from Southampton. So we love a Tino, Mark, don't we, in Newcastle United. So he's off to a winner already, isn't he? But he's a young right back. He's 20 years old. A horrific injury last season, wasn't it? He'd done his ACL, but the season before that, he played, kind of 28 games or whatever, a couple of assists, goal here and there, looked good, bit of pace about him, can defend, can attack. But interesting question you raised before, come on, Mark. If we sign the lad, it looks like the deal could be done for 12 million, which for me is smart business. If he's recovered fully from this ACL, what does that do for Harrison Ashby? That was the question that we were talking about before we come on.
Yeah, it's not well, because Ashby's older. So the immediate thing is, and he looks very much a good, almost like for like replacement for Trippier going forward. Livramento's yes, exactly. That's exactly who it is. I think Kev actually put it in the chat as well. So to give you both some props for that. That's exactly who it was. But Livramento is a different fullback altogether. And look, from the little we've seen of him, and bear in mind that, I mean, there's loads been playing. Look, they've I think that there's jokes in our chat about, people have been watching him since he was 5. I would very much doubt. There'll be a lot of Football Manager.
6 for me. I didn't start watching until he was 6 years old, mate. Yeah, he was terrible. He was 5. He was awful.
But there'll be a load that have seen. You get the ones that come out from FIFA and Football Manager and stuff. And yeah, he was rated really highly on Football Manager last season or the season before. But there's method to that, and Chelsea rated him, but given their squad depth and things, he's never really going to get an opportunity. He moves to Southampton. and looks really good to start with. I mean, see, you come in as a 18, 19-year-old fullback and play 28 games in the Premier League. You've got something about you, and it's really only that record, that injury that is, like Vincent says, it is a concern. It's one injury though. If he's fully recovered, you may never have any other issues with it again.
Yeah. Can he play either side as well? A lot of the lads are saying that he can go left back or right back. So maybe I was thinking it's a cheaper alternative to get a left back in who he can maybe interchange with Bird, because maybe he's looked at the market. He sees Kieran Tierney's 30-odd million quid. You know, he's quoted a couple of the lads from Serie A, Hernandez and DeMarco. Maybe they want 50, 60 million quid. And he's thinking, do you know what? I can get this kid in for 12 million. He's got a bit about him. I think he could be a really good player. You know, I can interchange him with Dan Burn and stuff like that. Do you think maybe Eddie Howe's thinking about that rather than playing him right back, playing him left back?
I mean, his history of Premier League football has been at right back. If you look at his heat maps, he's spent very little time on the left hand side in his.
That was with Walker Peters in the team as well. So you know,
playing left back. There is another name. That was one that sort of cropped up again today. Now I don't know whether somebody's been, you know, watching some of it and got 2 + 2 and ended up with 5 and gone Walker Peters instead of Livramento. Yeah. But Walker Peters would be a good option because he is versatile. He can play both sides. I guess that Livramento's at an age where he probably can.
But like Gordon, so, just said about Gordon, play different positions, move around.
I mean, fullback isn't the. It's not the full-on, you've got to be left-footed or right. I mean, Dennis Irwin played an entire career at left-back, didn't he? And he was one of the best right-footed players.
Trippier's done it. Trippier's played left-back for England as well. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. So it can be done. He's 20. He can be moulded into that player. I mean, if you can mould him into half the player that Dennis Irwin was, you've got a cracking left-back on your hands. I don't think that'll be the case, but if you can utilize him there, it saves you, I guess, 12 million. It saves you an awful lot of money having to go out and try and find somebody else that can back up on both sides.
It's buttons, really, if you think about it. For a modern day footballer, 20 years old, you know, loads of potential there. When he was fit in the Premier League, looked all right, as you rightly say. Under 21 international as well. So I think, you know, he could be a bit of a coup as well. And as Kev says there, I think there's a bit of a swap deal going on with Fraser going the other way. So that clears our decks of maybe someone who's on a half decent wage, maybe not a great wage, but a half decent wage. And you bring in a younger player, you know, on a lesser salary, you know, which obviously helps you fill out a key position as well. But Sai's saying, with being able to play both full back positions, could he possibly be a future 6? I don't know. I mean, it depends. I mean, we've seen Eddie Howe change players from one thing to another. Look at Joe Linton. When Joe Linton was here, when he come in, he was a misfiring striker, and he's turned him into, you know, one of the best box-to-box midfielders in Europe, probably. So I think Eddie Howe could do anything with any player, really, in all fairness, that comes to him. You know, we'll come on to a player in a minute who might not come to Eddie Howe and probably will live to regret that, I'm pretty sure. But I think, you know, with likes of these young players, I would back Howe to do anything with these young players and put them in different positions and make them better players. Roger's saying there, the Italian right foot left back we had was brilliant. Santon. Yeah, Santon was a very good player, but again, he was a bit injury prone as well. King's saying there, Mark, the Tino deal includes Fraser, and 12 million. His thoughts are that Eddie will coach Tino and he'll play one of centre back positions. That's interesting. Otherwise, we'll have 4 right backs. Why do we need a 5th? We need a left back. What do you think about that centre half?
Kind of a good. I guess the point about right backs is a good point, because with Trippier, Ashby, Manquillo, Kraft, and Livramento, I mean, that's stockpiling. Unless you're, I guess you sort of move Kraft into a centre back position as a backup,
as cover.
Ashby out on loan, so suddenly it's down to 3. Does Manquillo move on? Does Manquillo, you know, I think is one of those sellable assets?
I heard he might go back to La Liga. Somebody said that earlier on. I think one of La Liga clubs is interested in.
So then that's back down to 2. Do you then have the 2 or the 3 if you keep Ashby around it? I think that's the way that it will go. I don't think it's just because Kraft did so well for a point. Does he come back in that position, or do you go back and play in that backup centre back role that he's done before? I think he just gives you options across that that back line. But then, you've still got Target, you've still got Burn. Does Livramento come in, and who does he, if he's going to play that side, for example, who does he force out of that role? Does Target move on? Does Burn revert back to being the centre back? There's loads of options. It is one of those where we're not going to know until it happens.
Yeah, it's a good point by Ian there. Obviously, if Trippier gets knackered, we are completely screwed. Ian's saying that he thinks Manquillo and Kraft are both gone if Liv comes in. It's maybe not a bad shout. Moby saying there, why did we sign Ashby? He's 22, not 17. Yeah, it's an interesting one. It does make you wonder. He's very similar to Trippier, though, so maybe Howell put him out in the Championship, see how he gets on, bit of first team experience, come back and maybe, Trippier will be a year older. Possibly the body might be struggling a bit, and then Ashby could come in and take over his role. Les is saying that he heard that last year Manquillo was promised to return to Spain if we got a cover right backs. That could definitely be that. Mark's just off to deal with the kitty cat, I think, Ian, in the comments earlier on. Right, Vincent, that is a great segue on to the next point there. What are more thoughts on Maddison? Mark's just dove back in the right time there. So Vincent's just asking Mark, what are our thoughts on Maddison, which I'm going to kick off with this. So it looks very much like the stories are growing and mounting that Maddison will go to Spurs. Apparently the salary is something ridiculous, like 9 million a year or something daft like that. Now, Spurs and Newcastle have obviously had an interest in this player for a long time. If he goes to Spurs, my personal gut feeling is I think as a footballer, he's making a mistake, because I think Spurs are very volatile. I don't think they'll give Big Ange time. I think he'll be gone by November. The question marks are still there over Harry Kane. So I think if Maddison goes there, I think it's a huge mistake by him. But what does that mean for us? Do we go for a creative midfielder elsewhere? Szoboszlai or something like that, Mark? What do you think on Maddison firstly, and then what do you think we'll do if Maddison does go to Spurs?
I think Maddison's likely to head south.
Looks that way, doesn't
it? I do. It's an odd choice, but if he's given assurances that players are staying around, if Harry Kane's decided that he's going to stay, then I think that fits quite well for him.
He was asking
in fairness, he's discovered outside now, so he just disappears for once, and now he decided to come back at this time. So,
my bad, Roger. Sorry, I said he. Sorry, Les. Les is a she. Beg your pardon. Sorry, Roger. It's late for me. Mate. Go on, Mark. Sorry, I was in.
I forgot where I was going. I got confused between Cat and Maddison. There we go.
Cat and Maddison. Yeah.
So yeah, I think if he's given assurances that the likes of Kane will stay, then perhaps he will. He'll thrive there. We know how good a player he is. I think if he doesn't come north, I think the next move is then Szoboszlai. I think he's a terrific player.
What a signing that would be, mate.
I mean, it's another huge statement. One of young player who is hit massive amounts of sort of form, and you can take the game that he has developed already and just massively improve it alongside the likes of Tonali, Bruno, Cholin. It's getting frightening naming that midfield now, isn't it? And in behind Isak, Gordon, and whoever else is there. If you then go down the lines of looking for another sort of forward wide player, or do we get back to the conversation about does Maxi make an appearance? Does Maxi become what he said he could be this season? Does he then get the opportunity to play?
No, it's an interesting one. I mean, I think, again, with Maddison, if he wants to go to Spurs, that you have to ask this question, is Harry Kane not going anywhere? Because someone like Maddison, he wouldn't go there, I don't think, if Kane was going to move on. I just think as a player, he wouldn't go there. So maybe Kane is going to stay. Maybe signing someone like Maddison is something that Kane wants to give him more service, possibly. But I think you're right, mate. The other options out there, I mean, Szoboszlai just looks like such a player. He's younger as well. We've already talked about this. He's younger. You'd probably get him on a lesser salary as well. You'll have more sell-on value. As you say, he's going to be playing with younger players as well. That they're all going to improve the game together as that one cohesive unit. And we could end up here. And as much as I love Maddison, I really do, and I'd love Maddison to be here as a footballer. But I think Szoboszlai.
I'm really sorry.
I just seen that going in. He loves your cat. I think we should let you have a day with his cat. I think Ian, that would be a prize for you. That'd be better than the mug, mate. Better than the mug. Yeah, drop me a message about
Yeah,
it.
me.
So yeah, going back to Szoboszlai, I just think it'll be another one of those players. I honestly believe this. If we get him, I think he'll be another Bruno. I think he'll be one of them players that 6 games into the season, other fans will be saying, how the fuck did Newcastle sign him? How did that happen? What the hell's going on? Why aren't we signing a player like that? And all of the fans will be salty and pissed off and livid that we haven't signed this player. Some of the play, the ability that lad has got, he's done it against massive teams. Did he score like a raker off the bar against Dortmund or something from about 35 yards, one touch and hit, and just went in off the bar? And you were like, that is some player. You don't do that against Dortmund or Munich or something if you're just a flash in the pan. So this could end up being quite a good thing for Newcastle, I think, Mark. If Maddison does go down south, they might end up getting this young kid.
I know Eddie Howe's kind of been quoted as saying, he likes Maddison, and I think the evidence was there for the attempts to try and sign him last season. But if that's then taken out of your hands and you can get a player like Szoboszlai, I think it's just, as Abu's put in the comments there, it's a no-brainer. He'll be worth every penny. And it's whether that deal, because it's going to be expensive. I mean, whatever you do now, it's going to be.
So somebody moves on. Somebody moves on, in my opinion.
Has to.
That's somebody's Maxi. I think that's somebody's Maxi. I think Maxi's gone if Szoboszlai comes in.
The trouble with the only thing I would say against that is because of the position that Szoboszlai plays, you then limit your options down that left-hand side, which is where Maxi operates mostly. So then none of them are going to really play there. If you're going to continue with the Willock, Joe Linton duo down that side, perhaps, does that become less and less? Do you look for a much more permanent threat down that side in trying to replace Maxi anyway? I know you go through the list of players that have been linked, including the likes of Diaby, that were always likely to play in those wide forward positions. So it depends on what Eddie wants to do. If he's happy to continue with the setup that's been, then it's players in and around the Bruno, Tonali, Joe Linton midfield trio, perhaps. Push Sean out there. Just the season he's had is shocking. But the first name to kind of go on that. But you bring in a Szoboszlai, he can operate down that right hand side anyway. He can operate in as easily in the midfield, a little bit more like Maddison can operate further forward and in the midfield too. So I think he's just such a good player that if the option's there to get him, you get him. It's one of those players, a little bit like City going for Gvardiol. He's another one that is such an exceptional footballer. And look at the centre-backs that they already have in their midst. And I know he can play left-back as well. But Jesus Christ, he's some player. The option's there to go and get him, go and get him. It's almost as simple as that, because if you don't, somebody else will.
Good comment there from Kendo. I don't know if this is to us. If you lads had to play in a position in House First 11, who would you replace and why? Now, I suppose if you're asking us, Mark will go and goal, and I'd be number 6 probably if it was us, mate. But if you're talking about players to replace from the starting 11, I would probably replace Miggy with somebody of better quality, be it a Szoboszlai, Moussa Diaby, even a Jadon Sancho. I'd probably replace Miggy personally, Mark. Who would you replace in the 11?
I think you've nailed on the head there. I think Miggy's probably the first one, and that sounds awful given the season he had, but it was a bit of a flash in the pan. I think again that's probably going to be harsh on him, but it tailed off. As you know, it lasted for a little while in that post World Cup. It's completely tailed off again. So I think he would be the one to get somebody in to really give you that consistency. But if it's me playing, has to be in goal. Sorry, Nick.
Yeah, it got to be. You were decent at centre half as well, mate. But between you and Cher having head injuries, I don't know who'd be down longer. To be honest with you, mate. Between the pair of you two.
I mean, I do have the Harry Potter battle scar on my head. So
you know, but,
yeah. I never.
Let's not tell a story. Well, that was the cricket bat, wasn't it? Not the wire. The wire, as you know, isn't it? The wire.
The wire was across my nose. The one across my head was I fell off a wall and cracked my head off a curb. Probably explains a lot about my childhood. The wire was a little bit mess. But yeah,
Marcus like the rigs of a podcast showing you his battle scars. That's what he is.
Absolutely right.
Stop at the head, mate. Don't go further down. We don't want to see you further down. Got Les in the comments there. He's saying, he's talking to Kev there, saying maybe we're making more of it. There's been lots of reports about Scout and Sobersley. I think that is as well. Another comment from Kev saying, could Miggy get sold if Sobersley comes in, as we just said there? Yeah, I think you're probably right, Mark. I think it is a bit of a purple patch from where he was previously. Mark is saying Maxi will be gone anyway. He doesn't fit in. Like the video we did earlier on as well. If you haven't watched that, check it out. And struggled for game time in last season's squad. He'll be a bench warmer if he stays. And I don't think Maxi wants that. He wants to be the man, doesn't he? He wants to play those Champions League nights, does Maxi. But I can't see him starting in Champions League games. If I could honestly see Isak out left and Wilson through the middle and somebody on the right hand side and Maxi on the bench. I couldn't see him starting a Champions League game.
I suppose it depends who you're playing against.
Suppose.
I think it really does. If it depends on who you get drawn in the group. I think that's the deciding factor. In terms of going back to where Sobersley plays, pretty much right across that. It is, if you look at his heat map from the Bundesliga, it's right across that patch just before the I think he said the Premier League, before the penalty box. So he plays sort of right across. I mean, almost Maddison-esque in virtually just patrols right across that. Right across the field.
I knew Richard would be happy. He hates Maddison, so he's over the moon at Maddison.
We've seen that before from you, Richard. So yeah, that'd be no surprise.
We'll comment there from Kev. Are we impatient if Tonali officially becomes a Newcastle player? Are you happy to wait? No, I'm happy to wait. I think the deal's done now. I'm not overly bothered. Mark, would you agree with that?
Don't forget that he's also playing in the Euros.
Exactly. So they don't want to distract.
While that's going on there, the stuff's been done in the background. It's a case of waiting for whatever happens in the Euros with Italy, and then you take it from there. So I wouldn't be bothered by any sort of delay based on the fact that that's going on, because you want him to concentrate on his football and on his development before he comes in.
Absolutely. Now, we'll be linked to so many players as well in the next couple of weeks, but I think that Eddie Howe wants the business done early. I think he wants those two big players in before the guys come back for pre-season. If Tonali's one of them, if he gets, how do you say his name?
Livramento.
That's it, Livramento. I went blank there. So if we get Livramento in as the kind of backup fullback, so to speak, and then if Sobersley can get done before that release clause, as people are saying on the 1st of July, if they're your three coming in before the pre-season, then I think Howe will be happy with that for now. And then if anything else is to be done, it'll be done. Outgoings, incomings, whatever. I think, but he wants those key areas brought in. Now, I do wonder about a number 6, though, because it's such an important position. And there's a gaping hole. I suppose Tonali can play there, can't he? Sorry, that's the 6. That's the 6 done, isn't it? So forget about that. So the 6 is Tonali. The 8 would be Sobersley, and then you've got a backup fullback. Is that enough? Or do we need a young striker in a right-sided centre-half? Or does Kraft become that right-sided centre-half backup for sure?
I think probably. I think that's probably the way to, if and that's if Lascelles moves on as well. I mean, there's probably going to have to be movement with some of them. If it's me, I'd want a proper, it's going to sound harsh, I'd want a proper left-back. I've said this a million times.
Yeah.
But I've loved watching Dan Burn play this season. I think he's been exceptional, but he's not a left back. He's very serviceable in that area, but at the highest level, I'm not sure he would cut it. As good a job as he's done, I feel so harsh saying that because he has been great, but I'd want a top quality left back at some point. Yeah. Maybe it's a season too early for that. Maybe it's just a case of, you and remember, it's still squad building. It's still moving on the deadwood out the squad, the likes of Fraser and such like. So to be able to get in the and build that squad, so bringing in the likes of Livramento to move on Manquillo, for example, to bring in Sobersley to move on somebody else, or whether that is Miggy or Maxi. I don't think it'd be Miggy. I think he stays around for at least another season. He's earned the right to be around that squad. He's earned the right to push for that position. And he can play both sides.
Yeah, he can play a variety of positions. Exactly what I was going to say, but I don't think Maxi can. So Kev was just saying there, good luck trying to say this player's name. You're quite good at this, mate. Go on, say his name.
Kvaratskhelia? Kvaratskhelia-ish?
What was his nickname? Kavra or something? Kavara, there you go.
Kavara.
I can't even say the fucking nickname.
But isn't it his first name's K as well, so we just call him, I can't call him KK, can I?
Just 2K would do, mate. I'll just call him double K or 2K. I'll do, mate. But to be fair,
triple K ended up in the chat the last time we talked about him.
No, not that one. Jesus, we don't want them in the chat, mate. Fucking hell. But yeah, I think that, as I say, there's going to be loads more players linked. But I think those two big players, now Tonali's in, and if you can get Soboslai, they're the big ones done, and then the rest of them will just kind of fall into gear, I think, really, mate. But it'll still be an exciting summer, I think. And we'll get the business done as early as we can. I think you have to take advantage of good deals. Oh, I like that one, Special K. Didn't we used to call Keegan that as well? Didn't he get Special K? I'm sure Keegan got Special K, didn't he? Sure he did when he was a player.
I can't remember.
Yeah. What was Kevin Nolan? Super Kevin Nolan, SKN, wasn't it? I loved Kevin Nolan. What a player he was for Newcastle, by the way. Doesn't get anywhere near enough credit. Old Super Kevin Nolan, hat-trick against the Maccabees. Come on.
Is that one for when we finish the See You Next Tuesday list? He make an appearance in the good list? I can't think of a name for that yet.
You are a marketing machine, my friend. Yes, we will be doing that.
We'll get thoughts in the comments. So obviously, if you've watched the See You Next Tuesday videos, we are only going up to 20 with them. We're up to 14. We've just recorded. So that'll be out tomorrow morning. Once the 20 are done, we're going to flip the script and we're going to look at the best or the positive ones, the good days, the happy player, the happy ones, the good players, the shining lights over the last 20, 30, 40 years or so. We need a name for it because they can't call it See You Next Tuesday anymore.
We'll come up with it, mate. We'll come up with it.
Yeah. So thoughts in the comments as well.
Yeah. Throw us some suggestions. Just nothing to do with the podcat, though, Ian. I know you've got it out for that cat. It's nothing to do with the cat. Nothing to do with the cat. Yeah, Kev, that's what his missus said as well. I heard when he was at Bolton as well. But there we go. So that. No comment there. So Taylor NUFC is saying, I think the left back is more important than anything over the front three. It's not a bad shout, to be fair. We've got goals in the team. We need more secure. Certainly the Champions League, I totally agree with that, Taylor. I think we could get ripped to pieces in the Champions League of a proper good winger. Like imagine Diaby stays at Leverkusen and we play against them. Imagine him running at Dan Burn full pelt. Fuck me, that give me nightmares. I'm sweating already thinking about that. Jesus Christ. Oh, it's a good name, actually, George. I do like that one, mate. Local unsung heroes. I do like that, mate. Very good. Might use that one. That might go on the list, mate. Richard's saying that Kraft is a machine. Was very lucky to get injured. He does believe Trippier name dropped him. Yeah, he did actually do that. Or Krafu, as he was christened by the supporters for his resurgence as a top quality right back. I do think, to be fair to Kraft, he's got the versatility as well. So I think he'll hang around. I don't think Howe will get rid of him. I think he'll keep him around. There's your mate in the back there. I'm just watching it sneaking in. Ian will be getting ready in the comments, I'm sure, mate. But absolutely. But now we'll definitely come up with a name for that one, and we'll see where we'll go from there. So we'll keep an eye on the transfer news, as we always say, and we'll be jumping on with loads of rumour has it videos as the summer plays out. So just finishing up with the last category, Mark, as become a new thing now with what's going on out of Toon. So we'll talk a little bit of non-Newcastle United news, and actually there is a little bit of a sprinkling of Newcastle United in this story. So if people don't realise, Luka Modric was, there is one more thing as well, actually, Mark. Yeah, I beg your pardon. I'll come back to that because I've already started on Out of Toon. So Out of Toon wise, Luka Modric was offered apparently the most or biggest deal financially for any footballer from Saudi Arabia, and he turned it down, and he's going to stay at Real Madrid for another season. Now, that is a class act right there as a player, even though Dennis Wise didn't think he was good enough for Newcastle. Mark, what do you think about that from Luka Modric?
Dennis Wise thought he was too small to play in the Premier League, and this is rich coming from fucking Dennis Wise.
Exactly. The giant of his Dennis
small
Wise.
Man. Yeah. Look, I just think it's nice to see I'm not anything against the Saudi league at all, because we talked about this last week. They're just doing what Premier League did and paying over the odds in terms of players, trying to bring some of the better players in the world, the biggest names, get brand recognition, all that sort of stuff. But it's nice to see a player in that age bracket. It isn't just going to go, I'm going to just stuff it all for the money now. And I kind of understand it at Modric's age to kind of go, well, he's only got limited time left, go and earn as much money as I can. And I sort of said that about some of the players. And sort of Bernardo Silva was one to say, look, he's won everything now. Go and make a living for your family for the rest of their time. But it's nice to see Modric go, no, I don't want to. I don't want to go just for that. I want to play for Madrid. Do you know what I mean? It is a sort of refreshing attitude to see.
Absolutely. And Kevin's made a good point there that Son also said no to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
And some little Argentinian lad, I can't remember his name now. He's quite good apparently. He said no as well. Now he plays in America. What was his name again, Mark? I can't remember. I don't think we rated him.
The name escapes me. I mean, I can't remember. He mustn't have done an awful lot in his career.
He's shit according to Piers Morgan, if you want to believe anything he fucking says about footballers. But we'll not get stuck into that. But yeah, so that was one story. And the other story was our old mate Rio Ferdinand. Now, I was watching a podcast or a clip of a podcast, because I wouldn't put my ears through listening to Rio Ferdinand talking for an hour and all that shit. That's about as much as you would hear. So he was talking to this other kid who is from Manchester United podcast, obviously does something with Rio Ferdinand, and he's the kid going around in the clip talking about how much he hates the Glazers and how even crazy owners like a certain ex-Newcastle owner had the best interest of the club at heart, which may or may not prompt a rant. If you check the channel tomorrow, guys, you may
or may not have something out at about 5:00 tomorrow night.
Yeah, very possibly. Very possibly. It maybe possibly have a little rant coming up about 5:00 tomorrow. Little disclaimer for you: do not listen to it near your children, because there's
headphones only at that time of night.
Yes, there's a few fruity words in there. Anyway, going back to Rio. So Rio's on this podcast with this fucking melt next to him, and they're talking about how much would Rio Ferdinand be worth in this current market, and spitting numbers out and everything else. To say 100 million, right? Which I don't think is too ridiculous, given the fact Harry Maguire cost 80 million quid and he can't defend and save his fucking life. But Ferdinand comes and says, with no hesitation, I'll be worth the same as Mbappe, 170 million quid, 400 grand a week. Oof, isn't it, bro? Oof, like that. And I mean, what a fucking prick, man. I think, we just got a comment that said he's a total Speaking of pricks, just saying he's a total gobshite. Yeah, he is a total gobshite. I mean, Rio Ferdinand was good while Mark is just playing with his pussy.
2 seconds.
Yeah, Rio Ferdinand was good. But 170 million quid, I'm not too sure. Yeah, I do think he is a Macam, actually, Kevin. That's why he tries to sabotage our show. He is a Macam. Your cat is a Macam, Mark. That is right. Kevin has nailed it, mate. That's disgraceful behaviour by your cat. Shocking.
He was rescued. Well, he was taken in from foster family, so we actually have no idea where he came from.
No.
So, having said that, though, the other cat is from Washington and my dog's from Sunderland, so there's probably a bit of a theme going on there.
Don't admit that. You're just leaving yourself open for loads of shit. Just to make everybody feel better, my cats were from the cat and dog shelter in Benton, and they're both black and white, so there you go. That'll make you feel a little bit better. I'm representing.
He is black and white. I'll give him that.
Pay the cat halfway. Brilliant. I love it. So going on then, Mark, for Rio Ferdinand, 170 million quid he reckons is worth, without any hesitation. The same price as Kylian Mbappe. Is he? What the fuck is he talking about, mate?
Right. I sort of understand the point, and I can't believe I'm backing him up to this point. The 170 million. I think the comparison with the amount of money that Mbappe would be worth is ridiculous, because there's no comparison between the two players. When you look at some of the transfer fees that have gone for defenders recently, how good was Rio Ferdinand as a player? He was exceptional.
He's very good.
He was exceptional, and he would command an awful lot of money in terms of a transfer fee these days. But to put yourself on the pedestal alongside Kylian Mbappe, no. Definitely not. You're not in that league. I'll be honest with you. I rate him as a player, but Mbappe would run rings around him. And he's nowhere near worth that amount of money. Would he go for 80, 90 million? Probably. In terms of if you're going to put him alongside the likes of Maguire's transfer fee, that sort of thing.
Van Dijk as well.
Yeah. So that level, 80, 90 million, something along those lines, that's the going rate, essentially. There he is. He's having the right one. But fuck off. He's not worth anything near what Mbappe would cost. It's a ridiculous comment.
It is. It is a ridiculous comment, but he is a real narcissist and egomaniac. I mean, you made a good point there about Mbappe having him on toast. Fucking Fernando Torres had the pair of them on toast, him and Vidic, without even breaking sweat. More or less every game, he ran them ragged. The pair of them. They had nightmares about the bloke.
And let's be fair, what I said to you earlier on about it, well, I'd have Vidic over him any day. So Vidic is worth far more than Ferdinand. So that was my thoughts on it. But it's just, it's Rio Ferdinand trying to stay relevant again? And it's just the amount of crap that he comes out with. What on earth is that cat doing?
Ian's headed. That's what it's doing. Ian's headed wherever he's in the comments.
And he's been absolutely fine. And he's gone absolutely crackers tonight. Stupid Mark.
Stop giving that cat cocaine, Mark. I warned you about that. Just give it biscuits and cat food. Stop giving it cocaine.
Absolutely full of it, Rio. So, shut up. You're not worth 170 million. Nowhere near, mate.
No. But it's like these ex-players are obsessed with talking about how much they'd be in this current market. Like, a lot of them aren't. You don't really hear Shearer talking about that. Shearer doesn't talk about it. Gerrard doesn't talk about it. Lampard doesn't talk about it. But some of these players, like especially people want to push a podcast now. There's loads of ex-players that have podcasts. Some of them are really likable. Like Ben Foster's really good. What he does, I like his podcast. He comes across very well, Ben Foster. But Ferdinand just comes across as a proper fucking prick, doesn't he? He's in sublime shape. I'll give him his due. For a retired footballer, he's in phenomenal shape, right? And he was a great player. But just stop ramming yourself into the current game. Like, you don't play anymore. You don't play in this game anymore. I think I saw something a while ago. Who was it that was talking? Was it Michael Ballack possibly? I can't remember who it was that said Virgil van Dijk is very lucky that he didn't play in the generation of Alan Shearer, Dennis Bergkamp, Thierry Henry, and he listed off all these mint strikers and said, "You're saying he's the best defender that's ever played the game? He doesn't play against any of those world-class strikers week in, week out." I can't remember who said that. Was it Ballack that said that? It might be Michael Ballack.
Possibly. The only thing I would always counter against any argument like that, you can't say a particular player would be exceptional in this era. As good as players like Kenny Dalglish were, I'm not sure he would play well in today's Premier League. Can you imagine the likes of what was the guy that played for Liverpool, Tommy something, was a bit of a hard nut in midfield. Back in the 70s, my brain's not working. But those players were exceptional in their era. Ferdinand's exceptional in his part of the era. Shearer, phenomenal in his era. Would he work in today's Premier League? Would he work in the way that the game has evolved if he was the same player that he was then? I'm not so sure he would, because the game is completely changes the way that he operated. He's good enough that he would still score goals, but would he be quite the same striker that he was then? We'll never know. And this is the danger. You can't say, well, I'd be this, I'd be that. Would you, Rio? I don't believe that you would be quite the same centre-back that you were now. Tommy Smith, that's the fella. Thank you. There's lots of them in the comments. Yeah, you keep me right. It's slightly before my era, so that's why I couldn't remember.
And you're too distracted dealing with fucking Craig Bellamy of the feline world behind you there.
You
should have called him Bellas.
I missed a trick there.
He's like a wasp in a picnic. He's fucking everywhere, that guy.
He will be forever nicknamed Bellas now.
He's going to have to be Bellas, mate. But yeah, it is something they're totally obsessed with, these players. I just don't understand. That's a lovely comment from Jens. Thank you so much, Jens. Go rewind back to the start, mate, when we finish, if you want to watch us from there. Watch us from the start, mate. We always appreciate the lovely comments there as well. But we'll comment there. So Is it Mojibi or is it Moibi? Is saying as much as he can't stand Ferdinand, he would be the best defender in the world today. I don't think he'd be far off, because he was a really, really good player. But you know what? I'm going to put this out there, right? I actually think Woodgate was nearly as good as him. I honestly believe that. Jonathan Woodgate, if he hadn't had the injuries that he had, I honestly believe Woodgate wasn't far off Rio. I really believe that. Think about when they were at Leeds and they played together. And then when he came to Newcastle, Woodgate was utterly phenomenal when he was in Newcastle, but he was always knackered. And that was the problem. And I think some of the off-field activities didn't help him either by all accounts. But he was always injured was the problem. But Woodgate, I don't think was far off Rio, mate. What do you reckon?
There's an argument. I think Mark's just put it in the comments to say he might have even been the better of the two. So
he possibly was.
Woodgate was exceptional. I've used that word a lot, but he was very good.
Rio was great in the ball, but Woodgate could read the game. That was the difference. Woodgate could make that move before the striker made that move.
I just think Woodgate had a little bit more about him. Rio was brilliant. You're right. Rio was great moving with the ball. He was a good passer. He read the game very well as well. But I just think I'd argue that Woodgate was the better of the two overall. But I mean, we can sit here and have all kinds of arguments of who was better than who across all time, can't we? But that's what we love. It's opinions. You'll not agree with us. Half the people in the chat won't agree with us in that regard. So that's fine. We don't mind that at all.
Yeah, Woodgate was fast as well, Mark. You're absolutely right. Just finishing on a comment here from Dyer is the new manager of Chesterfield. Poor Chesterfield, says Kev. Can't stand Dyer now. Loved himself way too much. I have very little time for Kieran Dyer. My memories of Kieran Dyer was a really talented young player that Newcastle helped put on the map, and then he disrespected the great Sir Bobby Robson by behaving the way that he did. He didn't look after himself as a professional. Therefore, we didn't see the best out of him. And it came a little bit too late when we had that run in the UEFA Cup, you remember? And Dyer was quite instrumental to that. And then he fucked off to West Ham. And then since he's left, he's been quite disparaging about Newcastle. And granted, we haven't really been in a great place, but he's never really spoke well about Newcastle until we've started to get a bit better. So I haven't got a lot of time for Dyer, mate.
No, we'd never really spoken very well about Kieran Dyer anyway. To be honest with you, my opinions of Kieran Dyer are always slighted by something that he did to a lad that we know when he was playing in the reserves at Ipswich. So that will forever stick in my mind. You
remember that when I had to ask him, and then somebody just appeared and then told him something else. But that's a story for another day.
I mean, but yeah, what he did was, I mean, to do anything like that to Bobby is just. I mean, it's sacrilegious, isn't it? It's just
I think
if there's one manager.
Yeah, lost respect from after that, mate. I think that wasn't done.
Absolutely right. And it's so frustrating because he was such a good player, and he should have had the world at his feet in that regard because he was great, but he was just an utter ball bag.
It's a great comment to end on there.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember him crashing that into the Tyne Bridge, but more annoying than that bastard cat of yours is what he's saying, mate. So great comment to end on, Ian. Thank you so much for that, mate. But that's us all wrapped up then, guys. For what's going on. Thank you so much for everybody for tuning in. As we always say, the chat really helps the episode flow. Mark will hopefully remember to put this on an audio as well if you're listening to this on an audio, because he forgot last week. That's why he's rolling his eyes. But I'm going to do my bit before he tells me off. If you can like the video, it really gets it around YouTube, helps the channel grow. And if you fancy subscribing, give us a click. We're only 30 odd away from 4K. Really close. Want to be there for the start of the season. I feel it in my bones. It's going to happen. But we need you guys to click that button and get us there. We're going to be back with loads more content in terms of transfer rumours. And as we say, there could very possibly be a rant about the spoilt brats that are Manchester United fans tomorrow, which I really think you should check out. I think you might enjoy it. So that's us going to wrap up tonight, guys. Have a cracking evening, whatever you're doing. It's goodbye from me and Mark, and we'll see you on the next What's Going On. See you, everyone.
Take care, guys.